U.S. First Lady Melania Trump takes her Be Best Africa Goodwill Tour to Malawi, the second stop of her four-nation Africa visit. As Sunday's Cameroonian presidential election looms, VOA speaks with the leader of the Anglophone movement. And UN Special Envoy on Tuberculosis, Dr. Eric Goosby, discusses his role and strategies in the global fight against TB. Africa 54 starts right now.
Well, good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. U.S. First Lady Melania Trump is in Malawi on Thursday, the second leg of a four-nation tour of Africa. The U.S. First Lady landed Thursday morning in the capital of Lilongwe after a 6-hour flight from Ghana. She was greeted by a young girl who presented her with a bouquet of flowers. Mrs. Trump is focusing on child welfare during her Africa visit, and shortly after her arrival, she traveled to a primary school in the capital that received funding from the U.S. Agency for International Development. After visiting with students, teachers, and faculty, the First Lady gave brief remarks, thanking them for their hard work.
I appreciate all the support you have given us. Thank you all. God bless you. God bless your families. And God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Well, Mrs. Trump later met with the Malawian First Lady, Gertrude Maseko, for a private tea at the State House. American aid programs remain important for meeting crucial needs in countries like Malawi, one of the poorest nations in the world. During her stop, the First Lady is expected to highlight the Trump administration's support for vulnerable groups through the U.S. aid program. U.S. aid funds for Africa were slated for significant cuts in the Trump administration's proposed budget, although the cuts have not been approved by Congress. Cameroon's presidential election is set for Sunday, and 85-year-old incumbent Paul Biya, who has led the Central African nation since 1982, is favored to win another 7-year term that would extend his reign to 2025. 28 candidates filed to compete in the election, but Cameroon's elections management body only accepted 9, including Biya. VOA's Bagasi Kora has our report from Yaoundé.
President Paul Biya, who has been in power for the last 36 years, is facing 8 challenges. The 2-week campaign ends this Saturday. There has been no major troubling incident, but the participation of voters in the 2 Anglophone areas that are experiencing a conflict over secession issues remain the big question of this election.
The president of Elections Cameroon, the electoral body, Eno Abrams Egbe, addressed the press after a working session Wednesday with the members of the Electoral Commission. He says everything is ready for Sunday elections.
I'm just coming from the northwest and the southwest. The situation is perturbed but serene, in a way that all the material are on the ground. The security is working hard, leaving no stone unturned to make sure voters go to the polls free and fair.
6.5 million people are registered to vote on Sunday. The president of Elections Cameroon also spoke about the security measures put in place in the 2 Anglophone areas of the north and southwest affected by an armed conflict over secession.
Elections Cameroon has taken the initiative of transferring them to that areas. We cannot let them vote without being transferred. Many have been transferred within this period where we wanted to go for elections.
A recent UN report estimates that more than 200,000 people have been displaced in the country because of armed conflict. Agbor Nkongo Bala is the chairman of the Center of Human Rights and Democracy in Africa.
We equally have at least 535,000 internally displaced persons with close to 50,000 refugees in Nigeria. It's not going to be feasible and possible for those whose villages have been burned down to be able to vote. Most of them are very disenchanted with the whole electoral process. Most of them believe that priority should be on finding a solution to the crisis and not for them voting. So they have lots of reasons, myriads of reasons that they will not vote.
The 2 weeks campaign ends this Saturday. The president of Elecam noted that so far there has been no major incident. Bagasi Kura, Yaoundé, VOA News.
And now we bring you part 2 of VOA reporter Peter Clote's conversation with Sierra Leonean President Bio, as the president shared his views on fighting corruption amid other pressing issues.
At the moment, we are in advanced stages with the IMF in terms of discussions to rejoin the program. I think I can reasonably say that by the end of that meeting, we should be able to have a comfort letter from them, which we give the okay to other donor partners to start to disburse funds, budgetary support, and so on and so forth. At the moment, for the past 5 months, we have been managing ourselves. We have paid our public sector workers. We have started a national program without any cent from out of the country. This is enough indication to the IMF that we are a serious group and that we want to develop this country.
I understand your administration has been trying to attract foreign direct investors into Sierra Leone to help with job creation, among other measures your administration want to take. What are you offering them that will be attractive enough for them to come to Sierra Leone to invest their money?
Actually, corruption, the fight against corruption is one of those measures. But besides that, we also want to present to the world and potential investors the opportunities that exist in Sierra Leone, and also the business climate we have sort of structured to make sure that they can invest and have returns on their investment, that they should not be afraid of contracts being honored, and everything that is necessary to make them feel comfortable to invest in our country.
You talked about the ease of doing business in Sierra Leone. Some of your countrymen are saying that the rate of inflation is high and that the economy is not doing as well as it should. How do you resolve this to make that attractive for your investors that you seek?
Well, the economy can do well if we have if the investment climate is good and we have economic activity within the country. And therefore, investors who are genuine, who are going to be engaged in serious business, create not only job opportunities, but also help us with the revenue and economic activity. We have worked quite a lot to make sure that we are viewed as a country that is united, and we want to work with other people or investors around the world.
Well, some of your opponents, while you were in New York, were demonstrating, some of them accusing you or your administration of nepotism and that your cabinet is full of ethnic group members of your ethnic group and all that. How do you respond to them?
Well, my only response is to make sure that I deliver to the nation what I promised. Sound political and economic management of the state and the natural resources. When we do that, it is for everybody. There will be no nepotism when they are benefiting from that. If I am tasked to deliver, I look for the best team. And I don't look at their tribe, region. I look at people that I know that have a proven record of delivery, have the technical competence to deliver.
Before we leave, Mr. President, what should Sierra Leoneans expect from your administration in the next few years before you seek re-election?
What I want to do is to be very logical in the steps towards development. I believe that it is a lip service to development if we just pounce on it, take money from outside, or build bridges or roads without a solid foundation. The bedrock or the foundation for solid, sustainable development is the human capital. What I want to be remembered for is a person that laid the foundation for modern Sierra Leone. It will be anchored on a very solid foundation, which is the human capital of the country.
Well, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we covered. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince McCory. Still ahead on Africa 54, the latest efforts in the global fight against tuberculosis. But first, a look at Thursday's headlines.
In Cameroon, a crisis in the Anglophone region initiated by separatists threatened to block the roads during elections is leaving people unable to vote and causing thousands to flee. In Sudan, 2 military aircrafts collided on the ground at Khartoum Airport, causing the country's main air facility to be shut down. In South Africa, former President Jacob Zuma has been accused of pushing policies designed to benefit a wealthy family at the center of a corrupt network, in testimony given by South Africa's finance minister. In Kenya, an influential moderate Muslim preacher who vocally opposed the radical preachings of Somalia's al-Qaeda-linked al-Shabaab insurgents was shot dead by gunmen in the port city of Mombasa. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.
Well, it's time for our health report, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Madu with details from a new breast cancer study. Lino.
Researchers say eating processed meats like bacon, sausage, and ham could increase the risk of breast cancer. Drawing data for more than 1 million women, the team from Harvard University's T.H. Chan School of Public Health reviewed 15 studies in this area and found the biggest effect among women who reported eating the most processed meat. Dr. Mariam Farvid, lead author of the study, says, quote, previous works linked increased risk of some types of cancer to higher processed meat intake. And this recent meta-analysis suggests that processed meat consumption may also increase breast cancer risk. While the World Health Organization has previously warned about the extra cancer risk from regularly eating processed meat, U.S. researchers say the findings relating to breast cancer had been inconsistent. The latest research was published in the International Journal of Cancer. The World Health Organization says global efforts have averted an estimated 50 million tuberculosis deaths since 2000. However, TB remains the world's deadliest infectious disease. And in 2017, 1.6 million people died of TB. During the United Nations General Assembly in New York last week, I spoke to Dr. Eric Goosby, the UN Special Envoy on tuberculosis, and asked him to elaborate on some of the efforts to fight TB.
We started with the highest 22 countries that were most heavily burdened with TB. That makes up almost 90% of the TB burden globally, so it was a smart move to do that. And would go to each country and engage them in what their epidemiology was for tuberculosis, where their geography was, geomapping, where the population is, and how do their TB service sites to test, diagnose, and treat and cure interface with that population.
And tuberculosis is an old disease, and very often, in many cases, can be cured. Why is the world still struggling with this disease?
Well, you're absolutely right. TB has been documented in 5,000-year-old mummies, obviously came before that, and has learned how to infect humans but not kill them quickly. It's one of the smarter organisms on the planet for keeping the host alive so it serves their purposes. TB has been here for a long time. There's not a country that has not mounted a TB program, usually after World War II. And in most of all those 22 countries, they have a line item in their budget for tuberculosis that they've carried for many years. But that line item budget amount does not reflect the burden of disease that is in the country and the commitment to understanding TB and supporting it in its spread. I would say the main reason is because of lack of political will and the lack of a constituency group that keeps the political will focused on the issue.
So the lack of political will, what could be the reason? Is it because leaders do not understand the real impact of tuberculosis on their population? Is it because they don't have the funding? Is it because they're just not interested, they have other priorities? To your experience, what is it?
It's really all three. Those are really the big three. And I think politicians, and we all need politicians, don't misunderstand me, but politicians generally rarely lead. They usually are reacting to a demand in the constituency that says, President, Prime Minister, we need this, this, and this, and if you're our Prime Minister, you're going to focus on this, this, and this. HIV is an example where the constituency was well developed and strong enough to go from year to year to year, not just for one event, but for hundreds of events over many years, engage in a dialogue with political leadership about where that disease, HIV, falls in the priorities for the government, the ministries of health. TB does not create a cadre of advocates because of the intense and old stigma that TB represents in virtually every community. Sub-Saharan Africa, India, Southeast Asia, Eastern Europe, all these countries all reflect a shame that comes across an individual who's diagnosed with tuberculosis. Now, TB 86% of the time is a cure, and it costs $34 to deliver that cure. 6 months of treatment. It's not really the money.
News, fewer people died from tuberculosis last year. However, countries are still not doing enough to end TB by 2030. That's according to the World Health Organization's 2018 Global Tuberculosis Report released in New York during last week's United Nations General Assembly. Heads of state and government attending the first ever UN high-level meeting on TB agreed to raise $13 billion a year by 2022 to implement TB prevention and care and $2 billion for research. They committed to take firm action against drug-resistant forms of the disease, build accountability, and to prioritize human rights issues such as the stigma that still prevails around TB in many parts of the world. Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus is WHO's Director General.
Earlier this year, we launched a new initiative to find and treat all 40 million people who need care by 2022. We're asking all political leaders to commit to becoming 40 million champions to help us reach that goal. We need your unwavering support. We can only succeed with political commitment from the highest levels and action to back it up. Second, we need increased investments, especially in science and research, and we need new medicines, new vaccines, and new diagnostics. Third, we must hold each other accountable for the promises we're making today. That's why we're developing a multi-sectoral accountability framework with 4 components: commitment, action, monitoring, and review, to ensure we match our talk with real, lasting change.
The WHO Director General says tuberculosis provides an opportunity to implement system-wide approaches that build a health infrastructure as well as promote and protect the broader health and well-being of entire communities. And that's our health report for today. To stay in touch, find me on Twitter @Lenore Moudou. Vincent, back to you.
Well, thank you very much, Lenore. I'll be sure to watch Lenore Moudou's health report every Tuesday and Thursday right here on Africa 54. Well, current practices for wastewater treatment in Africa are insufficient to ensure safe water and basic sanitation for millions of people living in poverty. But a project in Kibera, one of the world's largest slums in Nairobi, Kenya, is trying to change that reality. The Human Needs Project has developed a recycle reuse system for wastewater that it says could serve as a model for overcrowded slums. Rael Umbur reports from Nairobi.
Ever since 2016, when Nelly Misango moved to Kibera, Africa's largest urban slum, her kids often fell ill. The culprit was contaminated water.
This water had a lot of effect on us. They would complain of stomach aches, but when I changed the water to the treated one, I saw a lot of difference.
Misango found clean water provided by the Human Needs Project, a non-profit that builds in poor areas of the world. Known as Kibera Town Center, the project recycles dirty water while providing bathroom and laundry facilities and clean drinking water for 2,000 residents per day.
We came up with the recycling system basically to serve one as a pilot to be able to basically show that it can be done here. And I believe if anything can be done in Kibera, then it can be replicated to any part of the world. And our system basically was designed to counter poor waste disposal systems of sewer, water from sewer lines and things like that. So that was the first intention. The second intention was incorporation of technology to be able to uplift the livelihood of Kiberans.
The United Nations says Africa's fast-growing population and urbanization is making wastewater treatment a growing challenge in informal settlements like Kibera.
From the morning, from the time we wake up till we go to the bed. And not treating wastewater leads to very damaged health, both for us, ourselves, and for the environment. When you look at wastewater, there are so many things in this, what we name wastewater. You have pathogen in that. You can have heavy metals. You can have pharmaceutical. You can have some chemical, which is very harmful. So if it's not treated and it gets in contact of our food, or our bathing or our drinking, then it's really impact on our health. It's also impact our fish, our fauna, our flora, so it's why it's really important, particularly in the settlement where the planning is sometimes not well done.
But expanding clean water projects like Kibera Town Center to the large slum population estimated at over 500,000 requires massive investment. Right now, the money isn't there, even as urban populations grow bigger each year across the continent. Rael Ombor for VOA News, Nairobi.
Well, my colleague Esther Githui Yuwat now joins us with a special guest from Nigeria. Esther.
That's right, Vincent. Abisoye Ajayi Akinfolarin is a household name in Nigeria, not because she is a pop star or a politician. The founder of the Pulse Africa Foundation is known for her work in the slums of Makoko in Lagos, where she launched a free program called Girls Coding that has helped hundreds of disadvantaged girls gain computer technical skills and instill confidence that is transforming lives one girl at a time. Abisoye, thank you for coming to VOA and Africa 54.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you know, one of the things that I saw on your bio is that you lost your mother at the age of 4.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And unfortunately, your father beat you up very often. Now, given the limited, future, the bleak future that you grew up in, how did you even start learning computer coding?
I'll say life happened. And during the course of looking for university admission and not having anything to do, I picked up on computer even in my father's house, learning the basics. And the interest has always been there. And while looking for university admission, I was fortunate to join an IT audit firm, EDP Audit and Security Associates. And I joined as an intern before university. And when I got there, despite the fact that I was just an intern learning and doing different roles in the organization, I grew in the space of 7 years. I gained admission into university while I was there. And I said to myself that I wasn't going for a full-time school because I was gaining practical knowledge while I was there.
Now, fast forward to you teaching the girls in the slums of Makoko. Why specifically did you make that choice?
We teach girls from marginalized societies. So slum is just one of the different communities where we train girls. And why girls, why Makoko? I think I'm more moved to where you have disadvantaged girls, because I would say I was in their shoes once upon a time. And I just hope they can have a better future than myself at some point, yes.
And what's the age bracket of these girls?
10 to 17.
10 to 17. So when you look at the faces now of these girls in the slums, because I saw a little bit of the video shot and I believe we have it up on the screen, what do you see?
When I look at their faces, I see potentials. I see untapped potentials. And we will do ourselves a great service if we can actually invest in people's potentials. Young people because you can have a different world when you do that.
Now, you know, looking back at the whole continent of Africa, there's so many girls whose life is just bleak. They're growing up in a lot of difficulties. What advice would you give? If you came from where you came from, do they have a future?
They have a future, but they also need to realize they do. And in realizing you have a future, there are a lot of things you need to do to grow. You need to invest in yourself. You need to see yourself better than your circumstances, better than your immediate environment. And you do well.
And you do well, and you've been recognized for doing so well. How has this program changed the entire Makoko slums community?
One of the programs we have going on right now that the girls have been able to develop, so they developed a mobile app for Makoko because they believe that the fishermen in Makoko don't earn a lot of money because there are so many middlemen. So we have a team of girls that built Makoko Fresh. In essence, those who want seafood can actually place an order from the mobile app and they get it delivered to them the next day. So I believe that's progressive in nature. And I believe that would bring in money because we have a lot of orders coming in already of people asking for seafood and paying, and we are seeing the money coming for them. So I think it's progressive in nature, and I'm really excited about that.
Very briefly, if you had the resources, would you extend this to the whole continent and to boys as well?
If I had all the resources in the world, I would extend it to the entire continent. To boys, our foundation may not be able to train boys, but we will empower other people and enable other people to actually train boys. Because I believe in a future whereby girls have the same opportunity as guys.
And your next goal?
My next goal is to have a girls' village for girls in Nigeria and Africa at large. And Girls Village is a bigger aspect of what we are doing currently, and it can also have a residential angle to it. Girls can actually develop projects and have investors invest in what they do.
Wow, well said, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Abisoye Ajayi Akinfolarin is the founder of the Pulse Africa Foundation. Vincent?
Well, thanks a lot, and that's our show for today, and I'll be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, African News Tonight at 1800 UTC and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching from all of us here in Washington. Have a good night.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Woodwork is any part of a house or building that is made of wood.
Crawl out of the woodwork.
This expression sounds troubling.
I won! I have the winning lottery ticket.
Oh, that's great. How much money did you win?
I won $25,000. But please, don't tell anyone.